Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today. This has been kind of difficult to figure out how I'm going to word this exactly, but I wanted to do this research for my own benefit because I like to know how things are done as far as research goes around Giza and the Great Pyramids and around Egypt, just simply because I'm interested in what happened on this planet in the ancient past, and I'm interested in human origins, and Giza and the Great Pyramid in Egypt is a place where a lot of that information can be found. So I'm very interested in how research is done in Egypt, and it is obvious by what happened at the debate between Zahi Hawass and Graham Hancock and other things that people such as Graham Hancock and John West and Robert Bauval have talked about. The stuff that has been going on the Giza Plateau has really stunk as far as true research goes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out some of the basic facts, and I'm going to leave you a lot of links if you want to research this yourself, because everybody's individual opinion is what matters, and what one person thinks isn't necessarily the truth. But I'm just going to give you what I think about this whole situation and the people who have been running the research on the Giza Plateau and who is really in charge. And this question has really nagged at me since the very beginning of my YouTube days. In fact, the first video I really watched and saved, and I created my channel right after watching this video, is Joe Rogan and Graham Hancock. But what was said here has always nagged at me, and it is simply this, by Joe Rogan. And I will leave the link for this video below.
That view, and I was astonished when you had Robert Schoch and John Anthony West, when they brought their findings about the erosion on the Temple of the Sphinx. They brought these findings to these academics, and just the tone of their voice, the way they were approaching the information, the mocking attitude that they had of it. Well, where is this civilization you speak of? Because they're talking about a civilization that was possibly, what, 10,000 BC or something?
Now, that was just a very short clip, and that just has always nagged at me. This really good research that was done by Robert Schoch and John Anthony West, and how it was brought forward to this council, and why this Mark Lehner guy was on this council, and just the attitude to the information presented just was really strange. And why weren't they open to new information? Isn't it much more interesting to associate Egypt with human origin and just not associated with Egyptian history? It has always bugged me, so I needed to look into this. I needed to figure out why things are done on the Giza Plateau the way they are done, the bullshit that has gone on, and I am just going to present the information that I found and what I believe, and I'm going to leave links for people below to look into if they want to further their own research. But this is what I found. Now, my own personal opinion of the debate, or the supposed debate recently between Graham Hancock and Zahi Hawass. Even a person with elementary understanding in human behavior knows during a debate, anybody who remains calm basically supports the truth, and anybody who appears to be a little bit agitated really has something to worry about in what they're presenting. So what went on here was perfectly evident, and I will leave the link for this below in case you are not familiar or haven't seen this video. But why was Zahi Hawass railing on Dr. Robert Bauval? Well, I believe it has to do with the scandal of the cartouche of Khufu, and I will leave this link below for anybody who's not familiar with this little episode. But Zahi Hawass had some people thrown in jail, and all Robert Bauval did was provide some evidence that what was missing actually happened during the time when Zahi Hawass was in charge of the Great Pyramid and the people that had access to it. That's all Robert Bauval did, is just provide some evidence. So obviously that's why Dr. Zahi Hawass was so upset. Plus, this thing, this cartouche, a royal emblem of Khufu, supposedly, that was found up in what is basically an attic of the Great Pyramid, this is the whole theory of Egyptologists that the Great Pyramid was built by Egyptians. These pharaohs that had these huge egos. Khufu built the Great Pyramid, and the only thing that he put in the Great Pyramid to say it was his was this royal emblem written in red ochre paint, and it would be the only thing from that dynasty written in red ochre paint in this type of linear script that has ever been found. But that is what Egyptologists such as Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass rest all of their marbles on the table as far as the Great Pyramid being built by Egyptians. And my personal opinion, and it really doesn't matter because I'm just one little individual, but my personal opinion on this, it is just laughable. But once again, I will leave this link below and you can read this article for yourself and maybe you will form a different opinion. But I think the way that Graham Hancock conducted himself is very commendable. I'm sure he was really looking forward to this supposed debate, and he handled himself like a true gentleman that he is. And his idea of what this debate was going to be, it kind of crumbled, and I'm sure he was extremely frustrated, but the way he handled himself, I think, is truly commendable. So just based on this alone, my idea of Zahi Hawass as a scholar and researcher is that he is rather lame. He really doesn't know what he's talking about if this is what he based his whole ball of wax as far as the Egyptians building the Great Pyramid on. I think it's ridiculous. But there's a few other things that he has mentioned, and obviously during this debate, he said he had no idea of Göbekli Tepe. I think that's hilarious. He did specials for National Geographic, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, but he's done specials for National Geographic. They have also done specials on Göbekli Tepe. That he stated that he doesn't know about Göbekli Tepe is absolutely ridiculous. And then there was this special in 1993. It was started, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, where they sent this robot up the chamber, and then he banned these people from Egypt, and he finished the special in 2002. And what he said really confused me during this as somebody who knows just a little bit about ancient history. But on the left here, top left, this is what in 1993, this is the picture from the shaft of the Great Pyramid, and when Zahi Hawass did the special for National Geographic, here is him drilling, they were drilling a hole to see what was on the other side of this barrier. But hey, Zahi, are these really the same two shafts? Personally, to me, they don't look the same. I'm sorry, I'm going to leave this link below. This is from Project Avalon. Check it out if you want to research this fully. But what Zahi Hawass said at the end of this, or during this special, he said from a picture that emerged from the shaft that this proves the Jews did not build the Great Pyramid. Zahi, buddy, you're only about 1,300 years off with your ancient history. How much do you know about ancient history? You're a scholar? I find that laughable. Now, this is the late Philip Coppens' website, and I always respected Philip Coppens as a researcher, though I didn't agree with some of the things he said. But he wrote this long article on Egyptology and the Giza Plateau and how things are run, and I will leave this link below in case you want to look into this further. I found it very interesting, and again, this is only one man's opinion based on what he found. And I looked into some of what he wrote, and what I found kind of pissed me off, but I'm just going to share a little bit of his website here. It says, the Supreme Council of Antiquities is part of the Egyptian Ministry of Culture and is responsible for the conservation, protection, and regulation of all antiquities and archaeological excavations in Egypt. Over the past decade, a television viewer might be forgiven to believing there is only one Egyptologist, and that man is Hawass. In truth, Hawass is more of an administrator than an archaeologist. One might even argue that if the man had enough time to lead excavations, he would not be fulfilling his task as administrator, but a television camera has the same attraction as light to a moth. Hawass is a controversial figure. He was at the center of contention in the 1990s and remains so today. Now, more so in Egypt than abroad. And obviously this was written a few years ago, this article. It says, in the 1990s, Hugh Lane Casey reportedly said, according to Edgar Casey biographer A. Robert Smith, I got him, Hawass, a scholarship at the University of Pennsylvania in Egyptology to get his PhD. I got the scholarship through an ARE person who happened to be on the Fulbright Scholarship Board. Hawass strongly denies this, though it is a fact that he was admitted to the University of Pennsylvania through this scholarship. And note, ARE is the Association for Research and Enlightenment, an organization set up to promote the work of America's sleeping prophet, Edgar Casey. Then it says, while most have been looking at the ARE, it is another organization, the ARCE, the American Research Center in Egypt, that has been missed and which seems to be the veritable puppet master. One source contacted for this article said, I am a frequent visitor to Egypt, and when I speak to government officials, most don't like Hawass. There are many many archaeologists in Egypt that do excellent work. Anyone who visits Egypt and follows Egyptology sees this firsthand. The only problem is Hawass and the SCA, and that is the Security Council for Antiquities. It says, why? Because Hawass has been imposed upon Egypt by certain foreigners, and this for a very long time. They have chosen an ignoramus, have flattered him, given him a PhD through the ARCE. He's a puppet. Pressed as to why this is, the source added, so that the secrets will not get out and that they have the best archaeological concessions. If Hawass is there, it's only because he knows how to play with nationalism. I hear him say every day how foreigners want to steal from the Egyptians and that the antiquities are Egyptian. It's clever because it makes it appear as if he is fighting the Egyptian cause and he won't be pushed aside. The source also noted the SCA follows the orders of foreigners from whom it has received help in guarding their interest. Indeed, though one might think that the Egyptians are in control of their own country, archaeologically speaking, the appearance can be deceptive. So I went to read a little bit about the American Research Center in Egypt, and I will leave this link below. It says here on Wikipedia, the center is a member of the Council of American Overseas Research Centers, and that directly tied it into another group called the Ancient Egypt Research Associates, and who is president or director of that group? It's Mark Lehner. Now, I think Mark Lehner is a very smart man. He knows a lot about Egypt, but it all ends at a certain point. It says here, Lehner first went to Egypt as a student in the 1970s. Intrigued by the mysteries of the sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce, Lehner found that initial notions about the ancient civilization along the Nile could not stand up to the bedrock reality of the Giza Plateau. Well, that is all very good, but that is a direct tie-in where Zahi Hawass was found. Mark Lehner was doing work in Egypt. They needed to find somebody to champion Egypt's cause about preserving their national heritage. They found Zahi Hawass, this little cheerleader, and I believe Mark Lehner is one that directly put him into office. These groups have definite influence over the Antiquities Council in Egypt, and this all is making very clear sense. Where do these groups get their funding from? Well, here is a list, and these are the men in ivory towers that support the standard model of history, the rigid, unevolving standard model history that many today find laughable. And it says back on Philip Coppen's website, and this is taken directly from the American Research Center in Egypt's website, it states their goal. It says the Puppet Master organization is the American Research Center in Egypt. The ARCE's website states, among ARCE's many great achievements is our relationship with the Supreme Council of Antiquities within the Egyptian Ministry of Culture, without whom our work would not be possible. ARCE is viewed as making important contributions to serve to help Egypt directly in its pursuit of cultural heritage preservation. And that is the whole goal of these groups, is to preserve Egypt's cultural heritage and to ignore any evidence that predates Egyptian civilization. So I've had many questions answered. What has really gone on the Giza Plateau is really clear. I'm listening to Graham Hancock and Buval and John Anthony West and others talk about Zahi Hawass, and you can just tell they're just dying to unload, but they can't. They need to be let back into Egypt. But this all makes sense now. Zahi, your greed and ego has led you to do many questionable things. Mark Lehner, you do a very good job preserving Egyptian cultural heritage, but what you're actually doing is keeping the real truth about ancient history from the people who are actually seeking it. And I believe you are doing a great disservice to ancient history, and the simmering disdain by researchers who do great work in Egypt, their simmering disdain towards you is clearly evident to me. So, hope you all thought this was interesting. Just thought I'd make a video. Have a nice day.